Welcome back to the second episode of the Bracket Busters podcast. Here, I am your host, Ellie Crow, and we talk about all things mid-major basketball. Let me tell you, it's been quite the last week. We saw Memphis lose twice, twice to mid-majors in their conference. They lost to South Florida and they lost to Tulane. In fact, actually snapped Tulane's 53-game losing streak against AP top 25 teams. So that's just scratching the surface of what happened. A lot of other things went on around various major conferences. We had Western Carolina lose to Furman at Furman. We had Loyola Chicago continue their hot streak in the A10. So quite a few things. Bradley is on the hot streak again. So, just want to start off here by talking about some of the crazy things that happened over the last week, and then also cover a little bit of what our top 25 rankings look like this week if you haven't caught them on our Substack already. So I think just addressing the elephant in the room here about Memphis. They have built quite the resume. I mean, they were ranked 10th last week in the AP poll. They have gone down 9 points as of today when the new AP poll came out. They were ranked 19th. I think personally that might be a little bit harsh because they do have quite an impressive resume, but you look at their net rankings, they've crashed pretty much, four times where they were in their net rankings. So they are now down to, I believe it is 49 in net rankings. It might have changed throughout today. Nets variously changes. And they were around 50-ish in the Ken Palm. So pretty brutal stuff. It on the surface, it looks, I think, a little bit worse than it really truly is. If we take a look at their two losses this week, they lost South Florida and Tulane. Tulane's a team that we were very high on earlier in the season. If you followed along with us in our top 25 mid-major rankings, we've had Tulane ranked several times throughout the season. I think Green Wave have been probably a big surprise here, but I think that's a testament to what Ron Hunter has done his last few seasons. They've really improved every season under him. They finished 12th his first season, 10th second season, then 5th and 3rd, and now they are 12-6 on the season, 3-3 in conference, including a win for the first time in 53 games, which, for those of you keeping track at home, is December 22nd, 1999. This is the last time that Tulane has beat a top 25 school. Last time they beat a top 10 school, February 12th, 1983. So we're talking about a long-time struggle for a Green Wave program that Ron Hunter's really turned around here. Kind of taking it back to Memphis, though, this is a pretty bad loss. You're Memphis. You were saying you were a top 10 team in this entire country. You play in the mid-major American Athletic Conference. I know that there's a lot of talk out there. Memphis. Oh, we're not a mid-major or power school. Well, you just lost the two mid-majors, including one loss at home, and then you lost at Tulane, who hadn't made a top 25 school in 20-something years. So I think it's hard to sit here and say that things are okay in Memphis. I will say I understand that they lost to Caleb. They lost Caleb Mills, who's going to probably be out for the season. They're going to need somebody to step up off the bench. I mean, he was posting 8.5 points, 3.2 rebounds a game. You're going to have to be able to replace that. I mean, their bench scored sub 10 points, I believe, in one of these games. So, that's not truly acceptable, especially, when you're looking at the teams that they're playing, they can't take any more losses like this. They're probably lucky the AP voters kept them ranked this week at all. Again, I think that they probably should be higher than 19. They're still a very good team. And I know I've talked about this multiple times in various posts and tweets online. It's just that Memphis has their best chance to make the Sweet 16 since their run in the mid-2000s. So, they need to really take a hard look at themselves in the mirror and debate, where do they want their season to go? Because the season's pretty down. Obviously you have your top teams, you got Purdue and all them, sure. But when you look, kind of from, let's just say, the top 5 teams down, there's been a massive variety of teams that have been ranked this year. The Mountain West is good, but, the typical power schools are not, necessarily dominating. Big Ten's down. You look across the board. This is going to be the year that a mid-major or the year that a team like Memphis really wants to seize the moment, try to go to the Sweet 16, Elite 8. This is going to be the season to do it. Especially, that's why you have to win these games. Let's breaking down the box score a little bit here. So Tulane had Zion James post 22 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Kevin Cross, who, to my knowledge, is the only person to do this in quite a while, posted 2 triple-doubles back-to-back earlier this season, so that's why I'm saying Tulane is a very good team and far better than what their computer metrics show. But Kevin Cross posted 21 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Kind of went over first win, huge win for this program, huge win for Ron Hunter. Cannot emphasize that enough. Tulane currently sits at 110 in the net rankings, so, not really bad. And looking at their losses, they lost to Bradley, who is now receiving AP votes, has taken their net ranking all the way to 63, and they're continuing to climb. Lost by Bradley by 3. George Mason, who we've been pretty high on. They've struggled a little bit in the A-10 in conference play, but still a very good team. Lost by George Mason by 3. And FAU, who we all know, lost by 1. So, you're looking at 3 of their 6 losses here to very good mid-majors, very good programs. Again, FAU's been ranked the entire season pretty much. So, looking at those losses, they're really not that bad. I think the South Florida loss is kind of what kills them a little bit more here, even though South Florida's still not bad. They're sitting at about 130 in the net ranking, so really not that far off from Tulane. But again, I think Tulane should be a little bit higher than that. I know earlier this year Tulane was sitting around 80 or 70 whenever they were in our top 25 mid-major rankings. So I think the South Florida loss definitely does not help here. Had Memphis beat South Florida and lost to Tulane, we'd be having a different discussion. I just think it's taking back-to-back losses. But here's the problem. Memphis has been flirting with disaster for several weeks now. They had a close one against UTSA, which that's nothing against UT San Antonio because UT San Antonio just took FAU to overtime. Really, that is the beauty about the American Athletic Conference is pretty much all those teams can compete. Charlotte's good. North Texas is good. You have a lot of great mid-majors, and that makes it hard on Memphis, and that's why Memphis has to go out and schedule really tough non-conferences every single year because they need those metrics to try to get at-large bids. Because where it sits right now, the AAC is probably only a 2-bid conference with FAU and Memphis. So, these teams like Tulane, Charlotte, all them, they're probably not going to get at-large bids. So that's just why that you have to go out and schedule these teams. That's why FAU and Memphis have been doing what they do in the non-conference. And that's why they are ranked. So for the people out there who say, oh, they shouldn't be ranked, because, FAU took a bad loss or whatever it is, or Memphis took a bad loss, no, that's not necessarily fair because if you put them up against these other teams and you look at their non-conference, they schedule extremely difficult non-conferences. So, I don't think this is the end-all, be-all for Memphis. Again, they lost to a very good Tulane team. And looking at South Florida, Selton Miguel came off the bench with 23 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist. And then Kason Pryor had 21 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists for a double-double. South Florida's played a really good game. I really don't know how much else you can say about that. They're still ranked 19th, so it's not the end of the world. But I do think that Memphis is going to want to try to boost their seeding up a little bit higher. And what I mean by that, try to get around that 5 range. And I think in order to do that, you're really just going to have to dominate the rest of the schedule. So, Memphis plays UAB next. UAB's been a pretty good team. They beat Drake, pretty recently. And Drake's obviously one of the best teams. They just beat Evansville by nearly 50 points in conference. So, you take out the Belmont loss and Drake would be even much higher in the net rankings than they currently are. So I think, beating UAB is going to be a testament. They need to bounce back from this, kind of what it did here, and try to reclaim the momentum they had from the non-conference going in, one of those top teams. But I go back to, I think they're trying to find some bench pieces, start to replace Caleb Mills, because that is a tough loss. I think a lot of people look at 8.5 points, 3 points, 2 rebounds a game, and think, oh, we can replace that, but it's not quite that easy. But Memphis is playing at that level of caliber. Caleb's posting those numbers in the non-conference. He got hurt, I believe, just around January 4th, so it was just beginning of conference play. But you're posting those numbers in non-conference games against some of the top teams in the country. The Memphis has played some of the top teams in the country. That is not an easy thing to replace here. So Memphis is going to have to figure out how to find those bench pieces and how to find that boost off there because they can't just run their starters into the ground every single game. We've seen that happen with teams before, and, well, it just doesn't end up working out for them because their starters just get wore out. They get hurt. They get tired. They can't play 40 minutes a game. Every single one of them can at least. So, I think they really need to take a look in the mirror and try to figure out how you want to rebound from this. You can't let another loss like this slip away. They will lose their ranking if they take another bad loss. Let's say they lose at UAB. They probably won't be ranked for the rest of the season. They're probably lucky to be where they are. I think the AP voters are being generous, again, because their net rankings are now 48. Ken Palm's 51. It's going to be hard for AP to continue to rationalize keeping them ranked in there. But again, if I were an AP voter, I'd vote for Memphis being in the top 25 as well. I think they're an excellent team. They scheduled a non-conference for a reason. So, I think at the end of the day, Memphis flailing a little bit, but I think you need to figure out how can we rebound, continue on, and dominate the rest of this conference play. Moving on to another one of our favorite conferences, we have the Southern Conference with Western Carolina and Samford and Furman. So it was quite the week in the Southern Conference. Western Carolina did take a couple bad losses. Not bad losses, but they took a bad loss to Furman, and then they took a pretty good loss to Samford. But the problem is the Southern Conference had a chance, like very edge case chance of being a two-bid league this year. That all but has diminished now after Western Carolina's loss to Furman. For those of you that have kept up with our top 25 rankings, we had both Western Carolina and Samford in last week. Samford has been dominating, and I was actually joking with a friend today that was saying, like, when Purdue drilled Samford, it could actually significantly help their rankings because Samford's trending up to a quad 2, quad 1 win for Purdue, which is crazy because Samford has just drawn their net up the highest it's ever been in program history. So right now, Samford literally just received AP votes for the first time all year today, alongside Indiana State and McNeese State, who are all three of those teams we've been preaching about all year long. Samford is the team to beat in the SoCon, and, well, Western Carolina did give them a run for their money. They lost 75-71, so it was a really good game coming out. So really not a bad loss for Western Carolina here. You're going to expect the two top teams to beat. You obviously, one team has to win, so you can still maintain those chances for a two-bid league. But what happened was Western Carolina went to Furman and took a pretty rough loss. Catamounts shot just 35% in the first half. They trailed by 10 at half. They only had 26 points. It was pretty rough. But you know what? They came around and turned it around, came back with a force in the second half. Game was pretty much going back and forth throughout the remainder of the game. And I turned it on about 8 minutes ago in the second half, and DJ Campbell just hit an absolute dagger of a three with just seconds left to tie the game up at 65 apiece. But then JP Pugs followed up with a dagger of his own, hit a three with the shot clock expiring. Western Carolina had less than a second on the clock. Nothing they could really do about that. So Furman gave the game. Furman won the game 65-62. It's a great basketball game, but prior to that, Furman's net ranking was just 151. You can't take losses like that, and that's a problem with these mid-major conferences, especially like the smaller to mid-tier ones. You can't afford to mess up. It's the same reason we see James Madison is saying, like, if James Madison loses the conference despite being ranked for several weeks this year, they won't make the tournament. It's not possible in terms of looking at their schedule and looking at their net rankings and looking at their computer metrics. It's just not physically possible. And Samford, Western Carolina were, again, there was no guarantee that it was going to happen, but there was at least the dream and the possibility that it was within reach to have a two-bid Southern Conference. I know there's a lot of Southern Conference fans out there who I follow on Twitter and see posts about it all the time. Like, this was going to be the year to try to do it, but taking a loss to Furman Furman's historically been a pretty good program, but I think this year they're down. They were 9-9 going into that game. Again, they had a 151 net. Pretty brutal loss for Western Carolina. And it's really a shame because we're only going to see one team come out of this conference now. And again, Samford is an elite mid-major, and Western Carolina is a very good mid-major. Like, I would love to see Montarius Woolbright play in the NCAA tournament. Like, people do not talk about this guy, but I'm calling it right now. There will be an NBA team that signs him as an undrafted free agent, and he will dominate in the G League, and he will win a spot as a bench player on an NBA team. He's that good. He's a little bit undersized. He reminds me a lot of Terry Taylor, for those of you that remember Terry Taylor from Austin Peay. He went on to play on the Pacers during one of the Pacers' kind of more down seasons, and now he's a bench piece on Chicago Bulls. So, like, there is places for players like that. I think that Woolbright will be there in the NBA. So that being said, it really just stinks to say that we're only going to see Samford or Western Carolina. But again, you have to be so perfect. After the Furman loss and the Samford loss, Western Carolina fell down to 106 in the net ranking, and that's just going to be the nail in the coffin for the Southern Conference, unfortunately. So moving on to the Missouri Valley, obviously my beloved Purple Aces are a part of the Missouri Valley, so This conference is a little bit more to my heart, and I'm so excited to say that I think there is a possibility that we do see another two-bid Valley again this season. It's been several years since we've seen a two-bid Valley. During the years of like Wichita, we saw a few of them, and of course like Loyola Chicago. Like there's a valid chance that we actually have a two-bid Missouri Valley this year, and a lot of that's in thanks to both Drake and Bradley. So Drake has obviously been dominating. In fact, they drilled my Evansville Aces by nearly 50 this weekend, which was brutal. And one of the first games that I watched about 2 minutes of the Aces and then just immediately turned the game off. So aside from the fact, Drake's very good. Tucker DeVries is a stud. He's going to go to the NBA. There's no question about that. Drake is a tournament team, but so is Indiana State, obviously. We've talked about Indiana State. They went to Murray, kind of had a little bit of a scare this week. They were down by 3 at halftime, and then you know what? They went to the locker room, made adjustments. They shot like 9 of 13 from 3 in the second half. They lived by the 3. They died by the 3. They went in, made the adjustments they needed to, came out, beat Murray at Murray, and winning at the CFSB is an extremely hard thing to do. So that was a real testament to Indiana State's ability to adjust and win games when they're close and when they're in really tough environments. So sprinkling that with Drake has continued to climb in the net rankings. Drake's up to 44 in the net, 48 in the Ken Palm. Indiana State's at 28 in the net and 43 in the Ken Palm. Indiana State just received votes as well for the first time all season in the AP Top 25 poll. So I think Indiana State Drake should be a lock at this point, given we do still have a lot of basketball to play. We still have a couple months to go until Selection Sunday, so a lot can happen. But I think where we stand right now, Missouri Valley is a two-bid league. And a big reason that this is being pushed outside of Drake and Indiana State is Bradley. So Bradley started off the season 6-0. They actually received one vote, I believe. Don't remember the exact week. They received one vote in the AP Top 25, and they proceeded to lose the next 5 games. So they started off 6-0, lost the next 5, and now they're on an 8-game winning streak. So now they are 14-6 on the season. So they've just completely turned around. Obviously, Connor Hickman is a big part of that. He's shooting the lights out again. Over his last 3 games, he's averaging 16 points per game. And then Senior Duke Dean, over his last 3 games, he hasn't posted less than double digits in 5 games this season. Over his last 3, he's averaging 22 points a game. He put up 25 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists in their 95-72 win over Belmont. They have now raised their net ranking to 63 and their Ken Palm to 75. So why this is so important is, if you go back to our last episode when we talked about Mountain West, having other teams that are extremely good in your conference is what's going to boost your conference's prestige. And right now, Missouri Valley is ranked about 9th in conference alignment this year in terms of like overall conference record and where they rank in terms of strength. So looking at that, Missouri Valley has historically been as high as 7 or 8. And this year they've been hovering around that 8 or 9 range. Earlier this year, I believe they were around 8. But some of these teams kind of fallen off a little bit. Illinois State's fallen off, USC, Evansville, Valpo. So some of those teams have kind of brought that back down. But where you need teams to improve, like what Bradley has done, is so important, because then all of a sudden Bradley has a 63 net now. So now you have 3 teams in Missouri Valley with 63 net or higher, including 2 of the top teams in the country in terms of mid-majors, and then you're adding Bradley into this mix. I don't think Bradley's going to have an at-large bid by any means, but let's say, something happens, Bradley wins Arch Madness, they go to the tournament with automatic qualifier, you're going to have Indiana State or Drake. Probably Indiana State, but Drake also could be sprinkled in there as the second bid, as an at-large bid from the Missouri Valley, because keeping Indiana State out of there would just be criminal, and then Drake, again, is a tournament team. So it would suck to see something like that happen, but for Bradley fans, it'd be amazing. And for the rest of us Missouri Valley fans, it'd be super crucial to see that here, where we've kind of been down a little bit in these last few years. So being able to say, like, oh, great, we have a 2-bid Valley, it would be amazing to say that again. And I think that the Valley has a lot of hope here. I know there's already been talk about Indiana State's coach heading to DePaul, because DePaul just fired their coach today. But, he seems pretty happy in Indiana State. I think that, I think DePaul is going to go after maybe more of a power name, somebody that their NIL donors can come back. Because I know that there's been some communications come out saying that DePaul had the least NIL money in the entire Big East, which is probably valid. I mean, they've been a pretty bad team for the last couple of years here. I think the NIL money was around $500,000 per year, and then some teams were spending upwards of $2 million. Pretty big noticeable difference, but it's also really hard to get people to say like, "Oh, hey, give me your $50,000," when that person giving you the $50,000 doesn't have faith in your program. So it's the right move to fire their head coach, and I think DePaul is going to hire somebody maybe a little bit more name brand, try to bring in those donations. And I think Indiana State, unfortunately, just doesn't have that level of name brand, and no, he hasn't quite built up a level of prestige as some coaches would already. So he's only been there a couple of years now, but what he's done is incredible. Obviously, I mean, he's taken Indiana State and just brought him to a whole other level. So I think we'll see his name tossed around, but I'm not too worried about that. So that's great for the Missouri Valley. It's great to have coaches like that can really help elevate the conference higher because it makes every other team better. It's going to be easier for smaller schools like Illinois State and Evansville and Valpo and all of them to recruit if the Missouri Valley is really competitive, and if the Missouri Valley can prove to have a two-bid conference or two-bid league chance every single season. Because then all of a sudden those players have the ability to say, great, there's 12 teams, 2 of us can go to the tournament in every year, in and out. And that's what's going to be so important for this league to move on. So I kind of want to take the last few moments here and talk about some highlights of a couple teams that I think people aren't talking about enough. Number one is Loyola Chicago. They had a really rough transition year last year. They went 10-21. They went 4-14 and 8-10. So really tough year. There's a lot of people calling for Valentine's Head. I don't think that was necessarily fair. I think going from the Missouri Valley to the A10 was a little bit of a whiplash. Look, I'm a Missouri Valley fan, but the A10 is a whole different beast. And you know what they say, the grass isn't always greener, but Loyola's proved that that's not the case this year. Loyola has brought their net rankings to 120 and it's currently set at 119 in the Ken Palm. They were preseason picked 8th. They are now 5-1 in conference. They sit in 3rd place in the A10 and are 13-6 on the season. They're really just one possession away from being 6-0 in conference. They lost to Richmond 58-56. So really could be right there tied up at top with Dayton, which is absolutely crazy. But they haven't really played a gauntlet in the A10 yet. They played Richmond, but they played a lot of the bottom teams. So I think they're going to really see they're going to get a big test this week alone. They're going to play VCU on CBS Sports Network on Wednesday. So if you're free Wednesday, highly recommend watching that. I think Loyola Chicago is legit this year. I don't really know where they're going to finish. I could see them maybe finishing 6th, maybe. But, that's still better than their preseason 8th. Looking at their losses, they did lose to UIC, and they got handled by FAU and Creighton, and then they lost to Tulsa and South Florida, which, they all aren't looking like bad losses right now. Again, South Florida literally just beat Memphis, and Tulsa's been pretty good as well. But, losing to UIC is pretty bad because UIC only has one win in the Missouri Valley. So I think that they've really adjusted well, and I think they're just a shock. Again, they went from 25-8 their last year in the Missouri Valley, 13-5 in conference, to 10-21 last year, 4-14. So I think that they've done a fantastic job turning that program around in the A10, and I think they're just going to continue to build it up. And then the last school, if any of you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you know that I'm a big fan of this school. It is Le Moyne out of New York. So you probably have never heard of that. They play in the Northeastern Conference with schools like Fairleigh Dickinson, who beat Purdue last year. It's their first year in Division One, and usually those Division One transition years are pretty bad. It's going to take a while to build up. Personally, I love watching this. I love watching schools like Lindenwood and Southern Indiana and St. Thomas, Minnesota, kind of build their programs up from the bottom in D1. We've seen St. Thomas, Minnesota really succeed in the Summit League, which has been fantastic because, this is a team that was D3, and then all of a sudden now they're succeeding at the D1 level. And honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that they have the transition block, St. Thomas, Minnesota would have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament probably. That is one thing to keep in mind here, but kind of pivoting back to Le Moyne here. It's the first year in D1, and really they were in D2, so they're in the Northeast 10 conference. They didn't have a ton of success. They were 15-15 last year. They were 11-9 in the conference. So, not bad, but pretty average at D2. But they're already 8-11 this year and 3-2 in their conference. And 2 of their wins in conference are over Central Connecticut, who is undefeated and are favorites this year, and Fairleigh Dickinson, who, again, beat Purdue last year. So now they beat 2 of these legitimate schools in the conference. And it's really fantastic what Nate Champion's building up there, because it's really fun to watch these schools again kind of build from the ground up. And it's what makes this even more cool is the fact that Nate Champion played at Le Moyne from 2010 to 2014. In fact, he's one of just 3 players in the program's history to record at least 1,150 points, 350 assists, 350 rebounds. In fact, his total statistics were he scored 1,258 points, 468 rebounds, 391 assists. So this is a guy that was super, super important for this program when they were in a lower division, and now he gets to be the head coach and takes them to that next level in D1. And he's really done a great job. He's from Logansport, Indiana, and he actually got a transfer from Ball State. So I'm not really for sure if there's a connection there. My guess is yes, there's probably some level of connection here. But he got Kayim Cleary from Ball State. Been a tremendous helper. He's averaging over 14 points a game. You can go out to my Instagram. I posted up a little post about him in his last game. They hit a game-winning shot. He didn't hit the game-winning shot, but he had 21 points in this game the other day against Central Connecticut, and then they hit a game-winning shot against it. So it was super fun to watch. Highly recommend it if you love watching small schools. You love watching these little 16-seed schools. Definitely recommend checking out Le Moyne. I think they're going to be a fun one. Nate Champion's building something special out there. Super, just a really small school to keep an eye on, and especially if you really love the low majors. There is a steep drop off from the mid majors down to the low majors, but watching teams like this is just kind of like something a little fun to watch on the side here. So that's going to do it for our second episode of the Bracket Busters podcast. And if you like our content, make sure to give us a like on YouTube. We just started getting posted onto Spotify as well. So if you are listening to us on Spotify, make sure to give us a follow, give us a rating as well. That's a tremendous help for us getting coverage. If you're listening to this on Substack, make sure to send it out to your friends. Send it out to anybody that likes college basketball. Because we did recently learn that our Substack posts on Twitter kind of get throttled because Elon Musk does not enjoy Substack. So him and the founder of Substack have some beef of some sort. But anyway, so when we post a link that has Substack in it, it naturally actually gets throttled down in engagement on Twitter. So, any type of sharing you can do with your friends is tremendous help to us. Make sure we get out there in the world. And again, just our second episode, so we got a lot more content planned. So again, smash that subscribe button on YouTube, give us a like, give us a follow on Spotify, and subscribe to our Substack if you enjoy weekly content of mid-major college basketball. And we'll catch you all in the next episode.